Okay, we have a set of participants, so we start gradually since every minute is important for this amount of speakers.
Unfortunately, we don't have that much time for this discussion, but however, as a dialogue, as a discussion, we can cover the key points. I mean, we are going to discuss it here and at other halls. We're speaking of the same things. However, this is a multifaceted big picture. And I think we can introduce something new into understanding the situation with FinTech. My name is Alexey Bobrovsky. I'm the head of economic programs, Russia 24. I'm going to moderate the session. And the subject is very interesting. It's called FinTech Closer to You. New opportunities for SME. Now, it will be my pleasure to introduce our panel experts. Campbell, Bethwaite, a managing partner, RedStone Capital. Ilya Kochetkov, the head of Department Bank of Russia, Microfinancial Markets. Denis, Osin, BOD, Microbusiness, Alfa-Bank. Natalia, Puzyrnikova, first VP, the head of risk management from Gazprombank. And Nikita, Saygutin, VP on digital services, financial services, Ozon. Alexander Chernoshchekin, Senior VP, Director, SME from Promsvyazbank. Sergey Chetverikov, the General Manager of Crediting Technologies. And this is okay. Now we're done with the introductions, and now we'd like to give the word to Central Bank. They're the organizers, and the range of subjects we'd like to discuss. They're quite clear, and the Snug, and it's called Snug FinTech, new opportunities for SMEs. So speaking of the new opportunities for SMEs, we're going to discuss platform solutions on structuring ecosystems for SME, and of course we'll have to discuss modern FinTech products, and which opportunities and risks exist today. And I think this has been mentioned at all sessions, and this will be something that we'll discuss as well. So this is the procedure for our discussion today. Let us begin with the Bank of Russia representative, Yuri Alexandrovich. Could you, as regulators representatives, as a central bank representative, could you set the tone for this discussion? First of all, how does the regulator view the current trends in developing in the FinTech sector of SME? Financial technologies that have to help business, how do you view them so that they're safe and user-friendly? Thank you very much, Alexey. Well, it's probably very correct to begin with the regulator, because the regulator will, of course, have somewhat biased regulative view, somewhat limited in scope. And let me stress, dear colleagues, because I'm the director of Department of Microfinancial Institutions at the Central Bank, I'm going to talk about SME across the prism of microfinancial institutions. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all of those who attended, all of those who are not indifferent to SME subject, and also you are probably I'd like to share my impressions with you. When I saw the first screensaver before the plenary session, I thought that next FinTech, we won't have to go anywhere, but we'll just get our glasses delivered, virtual glasses, and we can do the next Finopolis from home, just wearing your digital glasses. But because Alexey asked me to talk about SME, let me give you some general statistics statistics about small and medium-sized enterprise market. In Russia, it's around 6 million organizations, various incomes, 120 million rubles, various staff counts. According to UN Charter, small and medium-sized enterprise provides employment and workplace up to 50% of the world's population. At the most optimistic assessments, it's only 25% of our population that is employed by, serviced by SME. Well, the nature of our activities involves oversight of microfinancial institutions, such as various microfinancial organizations, such as pawnbrokers, many others. And, of course, repeatedly, systematically, some time ago, you may have seen in the media that microfinancial organizations are providing microcredit, microloans at huge rates, deceiving people. But, of course, the journalists are overlooking the large share of the portfolio of these microfinancial organizations. At least 20% of the whole portfolio of microfinancial institutions belongs to SME. And we also have microfinancial organizations. We call them, we classify them specifically. There are around 200 of them. They only cater to small and medium-sized enterprises. They do not cater to the public in terms of microfinancing. So which directions do we see for development here? Of course, every government watchdog should handle its own sector, but which avenues do we see for development of SME in Russia? First of all, we need to optimize regulatory burden on SME. Ourselves, we see that such an indicator as MPL 90 plus for the whole microfinancing market is 27%, and for the segment, for the SME loans, it's at 9%. The next subject is that we need to think hard on attracting investments from the government and private investors. When creating small business, entrepreneurs begin looking for initial startup capital, go to relatives, family, friends. Banks don't want anything to do with such startups, neither do professional investors. And here, largely speaking, we are seeing these microfinancial institutions that are prepared to assume bigger risks than other professional creditors. We certainly need digitalization of the industry and increasing its transparency. Today, we are stating that we see a fragmented market. We don't have a single informational space that unites, joins the government, investors, and the entrepreneurs. And largely, and of course, everyone is aware of the microcredit organizations, microfinancing organizations. But how do we view an ideal small business, rural small business, based on specific credit co-op? From Ireland, turnover 500 million euro, modern processing facilities, research centers, education centers, training centers. They produce over 30 products, from baby food to food additives, their own production facility, mobile apps. Mobile apps is used by the farmers to receive not only financial reporting, they can see the results of the milk, for example, that they sold. Also, there is assistance provided in cattle feed stock. Also, there is a system of participation of stakeholders in running the co-op, including remote voting. So it's a big, whole, comprehensive ecosystem on a case of one business. And then, which forms can this cooperation take? Up to 30% of financing of SME in Europe belongs to co-op banks, and co-op banks, of course, emerge from smaller enterprises, and this is probably our goal. And finally, let me tell you a joke. It's an old joke. Certainly, it's lame, but I think it fits this scenario. It's when you come to your consultant and you say, I want to start a small business, and a consultant says, buy a big business and just wait a little. So we are hoping that our SME and our small entrepreneurship will grow the opposite way into the positives. So thank you very much. I think we will all take part in this discussion. I have a question for you. You mentioned the single information space. What do you mean by that? Is this a media or... Well, unfortunately, we haven't realized a single product for SME in terms of cases and point of a single information space we could provide. Not so long ago, Bank of Russia was working with Yandex, and we thought, how does the person look for a loan? They go online. They go to Yandex page, search browser, and they look for loans. And they get 1 billion offers. So how do they navigate them? And also, all the negative cases you heard of the microfinancial market are related to illegal black and gray markets, illegal players, but not the microfinancial organizations that are part of the register, central bank register. So how can we separate illegal and illegal market participants? We have arranged with Yandex. And when you see a financial organization in your search browser window, you see a Bank of Russia, a central bank register logo, and if you click on that, you can check if the organization is listed in the register. We were using this system, then we joined insurance. We also did that for insurance companies, some security companies, players, some companies from the securities market, and you can now also check companies in the securities market. Today we get over 80 million views per month. Over 80 million views per month. This is referred to. And also it should be mentioned that the relationship with Yandex is quite successful, and yesterday Mail.ru has also done the same thing for all the participants, for all the players in the financial market. Hence the question Alexander is telling me. I wonder how many are continuing to use the illegal links. I think this would be a more indicative statistic, at least approximate. No, we don't have these statistics. When the journalists ask me how many illegal crediting organizations we have, well, how many people are crossing the road at a red light now? I have no answer. Same goes for illegal borrowers, for illegal, creditors, illegal lenders. So, yes, of course, it's an ambitious challenge to calculate the whole gray sector. And now, please allow me to move on to Alexander Chernoshchekin, Senior VP and Director for SME at Promsvyazbank. We've been discussing early this session regarding the regulator. I don't think we should ask the regulator this question, would be incorrect, but I can ask you as a bank, as a banker. So improvement of FinTech technologies is simple compensatory measure. So what we are doing for SME in terms of technology, we are doing something in terms of technology which we cannot do in terms of financial economic policy. So we need to improve this platform, this structure for SME. Well, on the one hand, yes, says Alexander, because when you improve the access of entrepreneurs to financial tools, of course, their business grows. And even if your interest rate is quite high, the easier it is to get a loan. Even under this rate, the bigger, the more you could develop your production. But of course, there is a limitation to technological developments, and no matter how far they evolve, there is still a glass ceiling that's impossible to break through. However, the technologies, of course, certainly allow us to grow our loan portfolio, increase a number of borrowers, and as soon as we implemented our new online and cloud technologies, our number of our customers has grown 1.5 times over. So the answer is obvious. Okay, you wanted to show us 3 slides. Please show them so we can go through them and everyone can find it easy to go on. Yes, well, basically, we had a very interesting goal. We looked at the micro financial at our portfolio, and we saw that companies are not getting loans under 5 million rubles because, of course, the margin of the cost of issuing a loan is from 2 to 4%. So your interest rate either has to be very high because the return is quite low. So there was no interest in providing loans to smaller customers. And using classic technologies, it would be impossible to provide financing to SMEs. So we decided as a bank because we're a smaller bank, we cannot build this ecosystem now, and we can build this process without papers. So we decided to ask for no papers from our customers, and we introduced a model that is based on transactional activity, that lists all of their particulars, and then we make them an offer in our banking app. So the company can press click a button, get a loan, get approved, and get the money on account. We used to get 6,500 clients, borrowers, and now we have increased this number to 14,500, and these are only small amounts, so the accessibility of loans have greatly increased. The own cost is quite small. There is no analytics, there is no paperwork, there is only online process. So in terms of growth rates, this is certainly an impressive success story.
The portfolio is not very large. It's accessible with financial technologies for microbusiness improved significantly, and the rate is much lower than microfinance companies. Also, since April, we experiment in the same story with clients from other banks. We take their statement, download into our engine, make a scoring, and start crediting also without asking for other documents except statement. Also, agreement to access bureaucracy or 51 account card. So the portfolio made, it's operating good. We start creating clients that earlier haven't got loans in their own banks. So for the future, we see we made a created chatbot in Telegram, so we can load the same, enter Telegram, and paperless, and write, I want a loan, download statement from other bank, and in a short time, you get a final approval. I emphasize that part of our colleagues, they like to say, okay, we'll make decision for 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, but it's preliminary approval, and then you need to come to the bank, bring the documents, and talk to the person. That you need to pay dues to regulator, I think. Say thanks. When we started this project to improve accessibility, the reserve for microloans without reporting was 50%. And regulator for a year went through a loan and changed instruction. Now provision for this can be 1.5%, so loan without official reporting became legal for all market participants. So that was significantly improved. So what else is needed with existing measures of credit regulation? It is desirable to get access to the database of federal tax. Now the tax declaration for VAT, reporting declaration to taxes if banks get access, then loans for 150 million rubles. We can make decisions without contacting companies for reporting in automatic mode without credit analysts to make these decisions. And we set the goal like this, and they should this will require changes in regulation and legal base with FinTech Association, and we'll be thankful if other banks join, because we think it's an important topic. This will improve returns and manage credit process, speed, and enable better quality services to our clients and improve accessibility for small business. Thanks. That's a platform solution, right? To some extent, well, we are not colleagues of major banks. It's too early. It's a mini platform. Okay, good. Now, let's continue. Let's see how it's with private banks, private major. Denis, member of the board, small microbusiness, Alfa-Bank. So what's your attitude to this platform solutions idea, and what do you do? And I had an interview with the head of major bank, and I asked him how much in interest loan there is for paper and other redundant things that Promsvyazbank tries to get rid of. And so he said it's up to 2-3%. It was a few years ago. Now the rate is lower, and the interest low. So it's a serious change. In this case, modern technologies, FinTech we're talking about, is able to save something for consumers and for SMEs. So how is it in your bank? What's your attitude to this platform solutions? Thanks for this question. I'll say we save the forest. And Berkashinsky, when talking about Alfa-Bank strategy, he mentioned that we selected paperless bank, and paperless office is one of the strategic areas for development. Coming back to the topic of my presentation, then having got to know this name of this FinTech Snug, I thought, what is this, and what kind of solution that cover the requirement of both banks and clients? So I'd like to introduce the platform solution on an iPad that works in Alfa-Bank for full scale for 2 years, mobile manager for client manager. And it's absolutely accurately working in the interest of clients of Alfa-Bank, and helps to save paper and forest and a large number of processes that we digitalize. So the conditions for this, the goal that we set, and not only loans and leverage is the need and of clients when selecting banks, but also quality and regular daily. There's a key source for selecting bank. So when we set up on this task and we determined this goal, and we started actively take the market share from our colleagues and competition. So today we were able to put on iPad the whole scope of task of client manager when they need to attract new clients monthly, daily from the field. It looks the following. It's a set of solutions with the core element is SRM system that works online, where all information about the client available and potential client or current client is already visible to the client manager when it goes to the field. And we try to break the paradigm and say, when they said not the client would come to the bank, but the bank would come to the client. That's why we have active sales managers working where clients live, like in the warehouse, in the shops, or in the law offices. So CRM system is a key element of this solution. The second story is that quality offer of a product and to understand what clients needs, the ability to adapt interactive presentations and show it in a simple way, how process of credits and opening an account work. Then you can send a commercial offer with this iPad if the client wants to think, or move to the next stage when clients say yes, they are interested, and let's start what's next. So with this iPad, you can open an account, basically taking pictures of documents of clients and online provided to the clients. For sole proprietors, it's almost immediate. Not only settlements accounts are open through this iPad, but also the business cards like acquiring or automatic overdraft if they're interested in partnership program or salary project. This is all checkpoints set in this system, and all with this scope, all this beautiful set of things that client require, they receive from the bank. So what's important is that client manager leaving the deal and leaving the meeting, they understand that part of products already launched and clients get access to an account, and then the system will say that around this client are potentially meetings that can be conducted. And what's important that for the central control office, where the leader looks how the employee work and minimize time losses. And speaking about clients, we said a lot today that clients are important for them. It's going to save time and get products or solutions from the bank now and here as soon as possible. And it seems like this platform resolves both tasks. And we were able to digitalize a large number of processes inside the bank, and we made accessible services for clients where they work and where their warehouses is. So this won't be in the option that you offer and the client needs it. Do you develop it personally, or is there a practice with banks? I mean, the major bank is clear. They cannot adapt to all, but 2-3 clients. I mean, these things are important in the FinTech for those meetings with client meetings. You mean additional solutions like inside the program, inside the software? Yeah, that's universal methods for clients if they want like a letter of credit, documentary. They will receive it, not in the time of the meeting, but we'll invite him to the bank and we'll get all the solutions that they need. Okay, I understand that. That's an interesting turning point here, but because the claims of business to banks is simple, that the banks are so large. I mean, if they are large, if it's not a small private bank, that they are not able to satisfy all the clients, all their requests, and figure out in all small businesses, there are so many of them, they don't have enough specialists there.
And of course, this is a growth problem, a large bank growth problem. And this is what I wanted to ask about. How is this solved using FinTech, and is it solved? Well, you know that the answer to this will be that the same platform has online pre-scoring on compliance on our favorite Federal Law 115, because using the criteria we understand, having processed a huge database of customers who open their bank accounts, current customers, we can certainly, based on this predicative analytics, understand what type of activity, what is the nature of the client's business, and how prepared we are to open this account here and now. So these things are also integrated, and this saves not only banks time in terms of procedures that we remove, and we also provide a clear answer, clear reply to the customer. Thank you very much. Great. Well, I will ask our colleague from Australia, Campbell. I'd like to give him the microphone since he's been working in Russia for a long time. we can certainly share some Western experience, some foreign experience. But nonetheless, I'm interested in his position in terms of comparing our technologies and Western technologies. The company RedStone Capital is the real FinTech brand. So where are we internationally, if we're speaking of international trends? What is Russian FinTech today, and what are we lacking? Can you tell us about your experience? Thank you. We invest, most of all, begin start to try to address SME needs in Russia and international experience we see. I think it's important to assess psychology of small and medium-sized enterprise, because we're sitting here in a panel that discusses new opportunities for SME, but people don't want to think of financial products. Most of us here, we're either bankers or someone connected to the financial industry. This is logical. We're discussing FinTech, but innately we are not talking FinTech. They don't want to talk to banks, to the creditors, to the lenders. They may spend their time on thinking how they can increase their online sales. So when we look at international trends, and we think of the financial products that could be offered prenatally. Our business, Simple Finance, which is one of the largest SME lenders in Russia, non-banking lenders. When we look into the future, we see what we can provide. And they don't want to think about loans. They want to buy something. If they need a loan, like another speaker said, people think of buying a flat. They're not looking for a mortgage. This is simply a tool. And here, when we think of small and medium-sized enterprise, one of the factors that I love about SME is that it has the same mentality as retail. They are all human. And this is small business, usually companies with a staff count of under 20. They have specialized competence and experience that the big companies are lacking. Largest companies' expertise and competence is split into 20-30 products. They simply want to solve their problems. So when we look at international experience, and what we are noting in Russia today is how to offer tech products that are relevant for entrepreneurs until the time before the time they actually recognize the need. So as a case in point, we're actively working in the government tender system. This is tender loans, banking contracts, guarantees, and we're trying to, as soon as we understand that one of our clients or another customer wins a certain tender, and we can provide and we understand a lot about them, we can offer them not only banking guarantees, which are quite a vital product, but the actual execution and design. So prior to the client understanding they won the tender, they already have a real live offer. Not just a preliminary, but a final offer. All they have to do is click a button. And the same goes for looking at opportunities for aggregating more information using our banking partners. For instance, you have a certain balance at Tinkoff and Sber at Alfa, and because of your transaction history that is accessible through our partners, we can see that the counterparties, we can see the person's counterparties So speaking of factoring and other financial products, they have certain balance, and with a one click of a button, this balance is already the loan is transferred to their account. So Russian FinTech is quite advanced. There are a large number of tools and products that can play in a single click here. We have a regulator that is quite active and shows much more initiative than other market regulators. Speaking of certain few markets. And of course there is certain space for growth, for opportunity and offers. Speaking of initiatives, we need to be fast, we need to be user-friendly, we need to offer services that are more relevant and customized to individual borrowers, and as I mentioned, the access to various banking and microfinancial organizations ideally should be provided before the client even knows that they need this product. Thank you very much, Campbell. I wanted to ask you that, and I'm happy you told us about that yourself, about the tenders and government contracts. Can you tell me, frankly, what you feel? Is it possible using FinTech make these tools effective? I think so. In the recent years, there were a few upgrades or newer opportunity or new pieces of legislation have been introduced into law, and of course sometimes it used to make the life for the lenders harder, sometimes easier, but today it's quite realistic for any SME that has the rights, has the experience, the correct certification and qualifications to take part in these government contracts. Yes, the reality today at tenderapp.ru, at our platform, we can see that you can file your applications to a number of products in a few clicks, not in a single click, admittedly, and also try to take care of the client from the word go, from providing banking guarantees to if they win. We even provide the financing of the cost of the banking guarantees. So not just us, but the technologists and our partners and banks are making this process much simpler.
The feedback that we get from our clients are more clear and available and for participants. Thanks, I understand that. You mentioned Ozon. So I'll ask Nikita, for Vice President for Digital. You are not a bank. You are entering FinTech from the other side, but however are things that can be offered by a company like that. It seems to me that Campbell started talking about that and could be comfortable for business and convenient. So tell us how this convenience you use from this side, from the business, like Ozon. Thanks for your question. We work on a very dynamically growing market of e-commerce, growing 20-25% year on year. And the best model is a marketplace model where internet shop becomes a platform connecting millions of people buying online and tens of thousands of sellers that want to use this channel for their distribution. Accordingly, Ozon, apart from providing services from storing goods, the last mile, and attracting clients, and more sellers are clients from small medium business that have some issues with getting banking finance, and they develop their own platform of crowd lending. It's called Ozon Invest, where they have borrowers and lenders. Ozon, where we see the information and dynamics of sales, turnover. On the other hand, large traffic of our marketplace, we're able to convert into a large number of retail investors that act as source of funding for the sellers. Well, that's very interesting. And how large is competition here? I see it on the chart. You said, and whether this niche could be in demand. Well, are you talking about financing or marketplace? Marketplace. Well, that's very much in demand now, and we see a huge growth. Other competitors, who are your competitors here? In terms of marketplace, main competitors are well-known Wildberries, Roots, Beru. Those are mostly dynamically growing. But the largest competitor ourselves, because with market growth, our capacity that can be captured is huge. And now e-commerce market is only 5% of retail, but in the United States and China, the market is so mature, it's about 20% of internet trade. Okay, so we'll come back to this from the other side. Let's share experience. Natalia, the first vice president and head of risk management of Gazprombank, I want to ask you, like in several sessions we discussed here, more competitors of this platform solutions, or partners with banks and major finance organizations. As far as I understand, this is not a question. They are your partners, but the question is whether you need to set the goal to major divisions inside financial organizations to make platform solutions, or get included in the models of other strong players in the market. What do you think? It seems to me each bank selects for its own. We went more on the line not to set the goal to create a platform, because we see that there is a large demand for creating services that could be embedded in any platform. And since we as Gazprombank, our main client bases are large corporate clients of Russia, even from them we see a demand that for we as a service for their partners would provide financial services. And for us it's an opportunity to enter a new client base, expand our sales on the one hand, and this service for our own corporate clients. But this is not building a platform on our side. It's a very close interaction, and this partnership relation enable not only to sell products, but also get the opportunity of mutual approved access to this data that we are very much interested in, and these companies and joint solutions make this access mutually beneficial. And make these negotiations easier. So I think that apart from this platform, there will be a large demand for services that could be included in this platform, because one player, and even large, cannot create a perfect platform. They need services of other partner companies that could be included. What services today are required? Speaking about requirements of small, medium business, what are those areas where this market will be developing? It seems to me the list of products been mentioned, and we can continue. We started with warranties, there's guarantees, due by law, factoring as an overdraft, financing of specific contracts between our major clients and their partner. These are the products that we were interested in and that we started with. Speaking about SME, it's not my area, but I'm confident that good quality settlement services is a base that all the clients will require. Okay, we'll continue exchanging opinions. Sergey Chetverikov, CEO of Microcredit Organization. This is a structure of Sberbank, and the question is why you need this separate microcredit company, and why it's important, and what is the strategy? Why Sberbank cannot do it in the way it is? Why it is a special structure? Hello. So Sberbank needs it. Well, I like the name of today's session. It's kind of joke. It's closer to your body. Yeah, it's Snug. It's from the word closer to business. So the first speaker who gave us numbers about Russian economy, he mentioned sometimes of like sad numbers of SME share in economy, 20% at base, 20 to 25% that is not visible, and 50 like around the world. It's happening because these companies and the people who want to deal with this, they don't have access to products and the financing. Why don't they have? It's because banks and major players remaining, they have their own risk appetite, which is limited. And at a certain point, economic practicality to credit clients is lost. So it's become so capital intensive and labor intensive. It's not practical. As an area for microfinance organizations and credit institutions, microcredit, where they can show themselves and help these clients who had enough power and desire to conduct business here and like to find this money. So I'm in charge of two companies included in Sberbank and Sberex, as we call. That's microcredit institution that issuing loans and crowd lending platform that we are preparing to launch very soon. But with the technology of creating, we are complementary continuation of those bank products that we provide to our clients, credit products from the balance sheet of the bank. So, as the speakers already mentioned, the companies in this segment are not experts in finance. They need them, but very fast. So we issue funds during one night and 24 hours, and companies get approved during 1 hour. And many companies who need money fast to buy products at good price and close cash gaps, and this happens. I mean, the product they need, they can wait for 2-3 days or a week if they work with some collateral pledge, and so it's a good complementarity in terms of unsecured products by banks, and we are one of the key players in the segment of legal entities. We are growing this company for $1.5 billion. We issue loans up to 3 million rubles for $1.5 billion. We want to scale up for the whole country. And coming back to the beginning of my speech, MKK is also at a certain point they will lose risk appetite. It's capital intensive business, and all the companies operating within IFRS provisions are large, and so it's capital intense. In order to grow portfolio fast, I need to invest a lot in order for this portfolio to shape and to get some income. And complementary products for the product line and microcredit is crowd lending. Now we are going to launch in 2-3 weeks. If you follow the news, it's going to be announced. At the first stage, we plan to share risks taken by microcredit with investors, with physical first pilot deals for portfolio were made in the first quarter this year, and co-financing product, while microcredit company takes up to 25% of risk. Our portfolio give it to investors. This will be first products that will offer to our investors, physical persons. In the future, we'll offer other products where microcredit institutions will want or not will act. Initially, we build it as marketplace for investors of any type, institutional, where the first anchor investor would be our microcredit institutions issuing loans, and for other investors and microcredit and institutional investors that can take part in this risk in this platform, and individuals, of course. And we see that our solutions, and we hope that will become a marketplace for this segment and players, because, as it was mentioned today by speakers before me, the market is very much fragmented, many players. It's obvious consolidation of the markets of microfinance will be strengthening. It's due to more restrictions. Legislation, on the one hand, is good. On the other hand, too many players. And we think that this marketplace is not only ours, that would be able to aggregate supply and demand for risk in this segment, which is not covered fully. This will be good for the market. And really, in this segment, only 20% of clients, think about this number, have access to regular financing from banks. Others experience difficulties. So that's why they cannot do their business. And our business, banks, ecosystems are the place to give this opportunity to do business, and money is required usually. So correct me if I'm wrong, that in this case, the situation where FinTech is a solution to problems and banks do not appreciate SMEs. And they say major banks, they do not value all the clients, especially small ones. So these solutions should resolve this problem theoretically. Well, it's an important question. Should never say the bank or Sberbank that do not value. No, a small business tells this. No, we value these clients. The most upside potential growth is in this segment. Lion's share of incomes of banks in this segment are commissions for cash settlements, and incomes from credit loans are not in the first ranks, and that's good because this segment is very stable and it lives through all the crises, economic downturn. So those products that I described, microcredit and crowd lending that we're going to launch, they say that we exclusively value these clients because these products that we offer in other area of risk are aimed to support clients at various stages of development with different level of risk in order when they mature to the level when they can come to the bank and make it seamlessly and start their communications and client experience with the bank as early as possible and gradually move to the bank, because it's obvious when they mature they will be financed at other conditions and the money will be cheaper. I'll be more competitive in the market, and that's good for all. And they're dreaming about that. When I started this business, we dream about reaching the depth in terms of and closer to the beginning of company development, because we have excellent solutions for opening online companies, the business environment. That's why this gaps from the moment of company creation, friends, family, where it's not clear what kind of money is provided. And while you run to FinTech or crowd lending or microcredit, statistically, 90% of businesses die. I mean, they don't live to this when you have something like you don't have the money. So I call you closer to business of our ambitious companies that should create the basis of our economy for the future. Okay, good calling. It's about you. I'd like to ask a question. It's not clear why Sberbank needs crowd lending, crowdfunding. In terms of capital, it's most the bank with a lot of the liabilities cost is lost. Why you attract expensive liabilities and to move unpleasant risk to other market participants? Honestly, it's unclear. Why Sberbank needs it? I understand other banks. Sergey, I'll try to answer. Many people in the bank. Well, Sberbank really is the largest bank, and liabilities are cheap. But don't forget about simple mathematics. And for invested capital, there should be certain return for invested capital. A certain level of risk, it stops. I think this equation is not resolved. There won't be this return where what shareholders want. And crowd lending is not funded by the bank, it's funded by investors. So theoretically, it can enable business models that could fund a higher risk. I say theoretically because it's clear at certain stages like negative selection starts. And over there, even these business models need to be paid back. And when we launched a microcredit company and approved this crowd lending platform development, we don't just dive there. We gradually move from the bank having experiments, what kind of risk we can absorb, and include in the perimeter of the banking group, and moreover, banks learning to process more data, and moves also towards, in our case, towards MKK and crowd lending. So mathematically, the problem is to maximize ROE in all channels, bank, microfinance, and crowd lending. We need to understand where are these zones and segments and where we can be useful for clients so that they do their own business. Yeah, it's clear. You mentioned theoretically many times. Yes, this requires special studies. I would like to ask one question to all participants. One of the theses of our session is best for small business. And we talk about some cases. So when we talk about best for small business, we understand that all finance organizations, not only financial, it's a large amount of data about business, clients, so a certain digital oil, like it's called. And I'd like to ask Ilya, position of regulator is interesting, and then I would like all of you to answer this question. So let's discuss. Today, this information is owned by major financial organizations, not only financial, like big data that could become a complementary business and share this information with like mobile operators and other like Ozon might have this, process this information. So this client data, they are transformed to a large mass. When we enter the website of oil and gas companies, like oil flows or gas flows, I can find out everything. This is open data, where it goes, where it flows, where are these gas hubs in Europe, what volumes they are sold, at which price. In oil, it is no hidden secrets. When we speak about information, especially large flows, try to ask this data from any company. I don't mean client data like credit cards, personal data. I mean those amounts that can be used for business, for related businesses, possibly sell it or use it on other basis. So how regulator, what the regulator thinks about it, and other participants, those who want to answer. So did I explain myself? Yeah. Briefly, I will add, Sergey, the statistics is why Sberbank needs it. It's 1 to 3. Each person who left the bank and came to microfinance for 1 day, is 3 who left microfinance and serviced at banks. They don't come back to microfinance. So basically, possibly, Sergey thinks that people who get this crowd landing, they will be grown, civilized to the level of clients. Thanks. It wasn't my intention. Those companies that finance and microcredit, they couldn't get a loan in the bank. 20% moved to the bank, and it's good. If they were not financed micro, we had to find them in the market, and this is more expensive. And further, Alexey, good question. Bank of Russia trying to do many things to consolidate efforts of the whole financial system. That, for example, marketplace. All like in previous panels, it was like each marketplace understand differently and their own way. But the idea is finance services to be allocated for 1, 2, 3 platforms to be available for people. And we encountered that finance institutions don't want to share their clients and provide these services, and like biometrics, like we launched a large project on biometrics, and I think you know that whether it's good or not. So I would like to mention that we have a SME topic. It should do in their own place to develop small business and entrepreneurship. Yeah, regulator does have large opportunities for that, as what the Ministry of Economics does. But the topic of SME and online, let me emphasize our legislative changes towards microfinance that seriously made cost of services higher. Microfinance, in particular, the law, first time in history of Bank of Russia, introduced limitation on interest rate, and the microfinance forced to move online. In January, about 2,000 divisions of microcredit were closed. About 49% increased online proposals. Also, Bank of Russia tries to stimulate it. Financing of SMEs. And we have these ratios used at calculating the adequacy of funds and non-beneficial provisioning for loans to SME. We work with Ministry of Economy so that for those creditors issuing loans to SMEs would have easier forms of reporting to regulator. Well, I know what you mean. Well, maybe Sergey will follow up. can you answer about using like the bank, the ability to share this knowledge with business? I'm not talking about biometrics or personal data. That is a large volume that can be used by various related businesses, and more subjects, SMEs. They bring clients to banks or make some settlements. So that way they can also claim this knowledge, sacred knowledge. Someone gave them to ownership. So if I correctly understood, I don't believe that I can sit for a long time on certain knowledge and use the know-how in one world. And our group and me personally, we believe in openness. So the more players have access, technologies and knowledge, the more competition where all will win, and both the consumers and suppliers of the services. So you see that this knowledge, this information could be available for business. So there is no monopoly. Natalia, what do you think as a representative of a large state bank? I think that if we're speaking about client protection, my personal private data, then each person will have the right to permit or not use of their personal data. But speaking about the data as impersonal mass, the market of the openness of this data will develop. This data will become more accessible, possibly on a pay basis in partnership or as a centralized data with the ability to use it. And that's the way where retail goes along. And maybe I incorrectly interpret, but this digital profile that should be launched very soon will change the market seriously. And the situation where very good data electronically and on a pay basis, you can get access for a large number of players. I think in SME, the same will happen. The level and depth of available data is high. It's a question how to consolidate it and how technically they will be available to the market. Oh, thank you. This B2B story. When we speak about the data, there's a lot of fighting. If availability of transaction information, of course it's interesting, like ID of counterparty and offer new products. There's another level of like retail information about retail shops. We have partnerships with a huge online and offline retail, even without factoring. This data from suppliers of products, turnover, then we can credit these businesses. But speaking about big data, impersonated then large banks here, they could make it, but according to my experience, most interesting data is from my experience of your own portfolio. There's say interesting statistics, analytics here, in order to study deeply these stories, to understand what went wrong and how to improve, how to make it better for clients. So as a result, most interesting new products to help our where from individual cases. Someone approached and we want some X, and microfinance organizations comparison with banks. Thanks, Nikita. In our case, where the business uses data for presenting financial services, so the comment, yes, we as consumers of data are interested in this and the whole story of data, the donor and the recipient. The donor, it's harder to give data to the donor, and recipients are interested to get new data to develop the new services. So to resolve this, AFT created separate open banking that will regulate this open data to other market participants to increase competition and create innovative services. Well, you are also a recipient. I mean, other companies also Ozon. Well, Denis, I think that the data just for the sake of data is nothing. And for me, it's important that Alfa-Bank from the end of last year actually work on like a sandbox of central to work out this new law, all that, those models everybody dreamt to, risk assessment for borrower, to get it legal and operational. It was published and it worked for the market, and that's the opportunity when getting the data that you can collect somewhere, and using it in your business model, you can make decisions based on which you're going to provide loans to your clients. This is the first part. Second part, that currently we work with a large number of our companies working in corporate segment of Alfa-Bank that come to us and say, we have the counterparties and they are ready to provide data, any data. You can take them for loans when the parent company is ready or not. There's mutual story with trust and other counterparties and the banks that can collect it and provide value. That's a solution and the answer to your question. I would like to comment that in our case, this topic, FinTech, closer to body, and it's about 20,000 clients monthly entering Alfa-Bank, opening current account and getting additional products, and currently our portfolio more than 420,000 clients overall. That means this number of clients confided its data and services and business in order to work with a bank that they trust via this mechanism and platform that I told you about. Alexander, I'd like to split this into two parts. So, actually, ownership of data set with certain value. If we look at this Federal Law 115, there's blocking and definition of compliance. We understand that Sberbank and VTB is 70% of the market, and so the accuracy of the model is very high. It's higher than any regional bank or any bank of top 20. So it's unfair conditions in bank competition. So this data should be brought to somewhere like regulator who would work for us and provide a service based on databases of all the banks. In that cases, we would not block clients as so often and have predictive role, and you won't have non-market competition. Second part, speaking about personal data of this company like loans or other, is work with associations for digital profile, and hopefully we continue this in digital profile legal entity. We wanted to get access for API for transaction activity of clients of any banks, and we will be ready to provide it ourselves, not only in banks, but on trading floors. And understand that Amazon is a huge market of data of small business that work, and Ozon and other companies. We want to share this data and compete on a fair basis. Our model allows it, but we should get this data online and use it inside our models. This will improve the competition, and then small business will get reduced rates, reduced transaction costs, will be closer to the body. So it's a good summary of our meeting, and I don't need any conclusion. I'll just saying that FinTech today is a serious supportive business, and both for beginning, for startups and SMEs that already in the market. It's obvious examples of our speakers point out to that. The other thing is that today these new opportunities for SMEs or FinTech should be supported by work on the market and confidence. It should be a permanent process. So this topic is going to be continued. It's good when we monitor it in dynamics, and we'll see how the situation changes, and we make some adjustments, not only by regulator but market participants, and we get to know the positions of various representatives in this process, in a model technology for convenience to work with SMEs. So thanks to all our speakers for your answers, your opinion, and for those spectators of this discussion. Thanks a lot and have a good evening.